If you are new here to Geekdom 101, make sure you subscribe and enable all notifications by hitting the bell, and also make sure your devices have notifications for YouTube turned on so you don't miss a single video when they drop. On this channel, we discuss all things Dragon Ball, movies, manga, and anime, and much more, and I thank you for 8 years of support. Now let's get to the video. Fans have debated this for decades. The Cell Saga or the Buu Saga, which is better? Now, a lot of folks seem to pick the Cell Saga. A lot of fans like that one more. But the Buu Saga has a lot of really important moments and aspects of the series that fans love. The Buu Saga introduced fusions. You had Vegeta's character arc being wrapped up. You had Super Saiyan 3. And you had a lot of really good fights. Plus, you had Adult Gohan, Great Saiyan Man, another tournament, Majin Vegeta. There was a lot of good stuff in that arc. Cell Saga, of course, is beloved because we got to see Gohan take the reins. And obviously, we have the android stuff, the time travel. Beautiful thing is that Toriyama is so good at trying different things. Obviously, with the Buu arc, we're now going into the God hierarchy and stuff like that. But today, I want to discuss with Mike from Laughingstock Media over here. We're going to be talking about Cell versus Buu and talking about the pros and cons, which one we enjoyed more, what specific things we liked more, and why, as well as over on his channel. Check out Laughingstock Media. We have a video that we did together about Cell versus Frieza. Not the characters, but the arcs. Which one do we like more, Cell Saga or Frieza Saga? So I want y'all to leave a comment down below. Well, first of all, watch this whole video, all of it, because that helps me out. It's a good discussion. I promise you it'll be good. You have my word. Leave a comment down below about which arc you like more and why, and then head over to Mike's video, watch that one, and leave a comment down below on why. So, Mike, I know you love the Cell Saga, and I know you're probably going to pick it for the Buu Saga. But I'm going to ask you, what good things, what things about the Buu Saga do you like?
There's definitely a lot of interesting concepts in the Buu Saga. So like, there's the reintroduction of magic, for example, which is something that essentially during most of Dragon Ball Z and really everything from the Saiyan Saga up until the end of the Cell Saga, it started to take more of a focus on
Like sci-fi?
science fiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when we go back to the Buu Saga, there is in some ways many could say regression, but rather a reintroduction of magic, of more mystical elements, of like demons, like Deborah, the king of the demon realm, the gods being a more focal point with the Supreme Kai, and then the being Buu, which is kind of like a conglomeration of all of those things that they're fighting against, So it really is, in a lot of ways, that is one of the big things for me, as well as the general sense of progression in the world and the characters.
What about fusions? How do you feel about that? Because that became a fan favorite concept from the very beginning.
Yeah, fusion is a really cool idea where you take two different characters and then, you combine them together in a different being that has its own powers, is way more powerful. And so as a result, you could take two characters that are children, that aren't at the level of any of the other strongest characters like Goten and Trunks, have them fused together, and as one fusion be individually stronger than the other characters. So that's one of the things that's really fascinating. You also have Vegito, of course, which is a fan favorite. So, that's another thing that they introduced that I think is a really cool concept. And like I said, the concepts are maybe the strongest point of that arc for me.
So how do you feel about Gohan and sort of what happens to him in this arc? Because we have him obviously hitting his peak in the Cell Saga. He's the big winner. Then we have the 7-year skip. We have some of the high school stuff, which some of it was filler. And then we have, of course, he goes to train with the Z Sword. Then we have Ultimate Gohan, which is the most powerful version of Gohan we've ever seen until, of course, Dragon Ball Super Hero. And I do love how in that arc he obviously takes the gi of his father. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But the Buu arc, right when Ultimate Gohan kind of showed up, was presumably when Toriyama had realized that having Gohan beat Majin Buu may not have been such a great idea because he decided to go back to Goku. Now, I want to let everybody know before we talk about this that there's a huge lie that's been going on in the fandom for years, that the fans complained about Gohan being the main character, Toriyama went back to Goku. That's complete bullshit. That happened in Transformers. When Transformers 86 happened and Optimus Prime died and Rodimus took over, the fans bitched and they went back to Optimus in season 3. Don't get Optimus confused with Goku. But what happened was Toriyama saw that Gohan was unfit to be the main character. Now, I know that you love Gohan, especially Cell Saga Gohan. So is that right there the primary reason as to why you think the Cell Saga is better?
I maybe it's the number one reason, but the thing is, it's hard for me to say that because there's a number of different things with the Buu saga that for me kind of detract from it.
Go
in that
for it.
sense.
Go for it.
So with Gohan, I do feel like the kind of having him stop training, having him kind of like go off in a very different direction from what we saw in the prior series wasn't really good for him. And the fact that they build him up the whole arc to become the most powerful form and then he just gets absorbed for me is something I never really liked because it feels like such a regression to go back to Goku and have him take over when they just had this whole massive point of him moving on and somebody else coming in. But then there's stuff like the power scaling doesn't make a lot of sense, like throughout various points in the arc.
It started to really fall apart in the Buu arc, I think, and Super made it even
Yeah.
worse. Super was really nonsensical.
And like really the whole third act for me of the Buu saga just drags on too much, kind of like the Frieza one, but whereas Frieza is a lot more focused, like everyone's fighting Frieza and who's going to win. In this case, it's more like here's another character who will be able to defeat Buu. Oh wait, Buu just randomly whips out another power from nowhere and is able to beat him, and then some other character is going to, it's it doesn't really have as much of that gravitas to it, I guess, as the Frieza ending. Whereas, like, okay, the Frieza one's taken forever, but it feels like everything's truly contributing. Whereas the Buu saga is like Toriyama's trying to come up with how do I end this thing,
Yeah.
and he just throws everything at the wall and sees what sticks.
I think you nailed it. I think for me, the biggest problem with the Buu saga is that it really does feel like Toriyama was burnt out. He didn't know how he was going to finish it. Throughout the arc, it was continuing where the Cell Saga left off to where they're building up not just Gohan as the lead, but Goten and Trunks. Vegeta dies. Goten and Trunks have to learn fusion. Gohan's doing the Z-Sword thing. And while that's going on, Mr. Satan's dealing with Majin Buu. And Majin Buu turns on Babidi. All that good stuff. So that to me, it was almost like Toriyama just sort of said, okay, this is not working for me. But the thing people I think get wrong though is they say that he went back to Goku, but that's not exactly what happened, although it somewhat is. He did decide to have Goku ultimately defeat the final Buu, pure evil Buu, Kid Buu with the Spirit Bomb, with the Genki Dama, but it wasn't just Goku. One of the things that I absolutely love, and I've appreciated this more the older I've gotten, is the fourth act of the Buu arc, which is the Kid Buu part, because I love how the final four fighters are Goku, Vegeta, Fat Buu, and Mr. Satan, and I love how it becomes, like, it elevates it. So the Cell Saga obviously elevated the power scale, but in the Buu arc, it actually felt like the entire universe was in danger. When Buu was destroying, Kid Buu was destroying those different, like, planets, it was only a matter of time before he would have wiped out everything. So they had to stop him, whereas Cell wasn't really doing things like that. And I like how it really had a sense of, dread that we haven't really felt since the Saiyan arc, in my opinion, or maybe the Frieza saga, I think. But I love that, and I love how ultimately everyone has to help. Everyone. They all gave their energy. The good guys, Gohan, Goten, whatever. The Namekians had to help using Purunga. Every character we have met has a cameo in that final Buu arc in Dragon Ball Z episode 285. That's the one where we have Devilman from Dragon Ball. We have Upa and Bora. All these characters come back to give their energy to Goku.
Yeah.
So it really felt like a series finale. Like, this is like the Gohan killing Cell, dude. would have been a good ending, but this is as good as you're going to get as far as Goku doing it because everyone had to help. And I love that. I love that Goku realized it's not just about me and my children. Everyone has to help at this point, including Mr. Satan. Had he not told the people to donate, they would never have beaten this version of Boo because he was too much of a savage. Also, speaking of thematics, we talked about the themes over in the other video Mike and I did. The thematics here are fascinating. I love the fact that Toriyama in this arc is basically using Mr. Satan as a metaphor. Obviously, he's Hercule in the dub. That's not what we're talking about. Mr. Satan is a beautiful character in the sense that Satan, like in the Old Testament, deceived the world. The world thinks that Satan in the story in Dragon Ball Z is the real hero. So just like the biblical Satan, he deceived the world. What's Toriyama saying with this? And the fact that people have their hands up and they're chanting Satan, Satan. It's almost like Toriyama's trying to tell us something about the state of the world. And that to me was super clever. I think that I agree with you that the third act of the Buu arc, which is from Gotenks through Vegito, it drags. They went back to the comedy and it didn't always work. Vegito was cool, but maybe that did drag on a bit. You know, seeing Goku and Vegeta fuse with the Potara was awesome. He's so powerful. Seeing the dimensions get cracked was great. The scale was so high. But I do love that everyone had to help. And I love how Toriyama is so self-aware because when Goku's about to kill Buu, he says, you know, you transform so many times it got annoying. And I feel like he was telling, like the readers were saying that. Like, how many forms does Majin Buu have? So, do you kind of see those themes? And how do you compare those to those of the Cell Saga?
Yeah, one of the things that you didn't mention that I think is also really good about the ending is the fact that the humans help themselves for once. That they actually
Yes.
do give the energy, and Vegeta's whole plan to have the humans fight for their own battle for once is really something I really like about that too. I wish that Toriyama didn't have like the Dragon Balls erase their memories of what happened afterward, but like the actual like point of what he was making, I really liked. The Cell Saga for me is kind of like unrivaled in terms of its themes in the Dragon Ball franchise because whereas like there are the other arcs that are great in terms of like the themes, like Frieza, for example, we discussed in my other video on my channel. With Cell, like just the themes of like causality of like the old generation versus the new, and like how you could take everything with like artificial intelligence, a lot of these other concepts that we're even experiencing now to their limits, and also in a good way or in a bad way. The robots resisting their creator, but also in a good way and a bad way. So overall, I think I would say I prefer the themes of the Cell Saga, but there definitely are a lot of great themes and aspects of the Boo Saga that are reasons why it's been so endearing for a lot of fans. Because even though there definitely are fans who don't like the Boo Saga, there's the same thing with the Cell Saga. I've heard of plenty of people who don't like it for X, Y, and Z. So
Well,
it has something for everyone.
and the Buu arc also did bring back some things that we hadn't seen in a long time. For example, the tournament. It's exciting because we see that awesome fight with Goten and Trunks in the junior division. We have, of course, that beautiful scene where Sopopovich and Yam, Gohan transforms, and then Sopopovich and Yam freaking, or whatever, not Yam, Yamu, you know who I'm talking about, the other guy, take his energy, and then we go, oh, well, here's the real story. The plot begins. That was interesting. They brought back tournaments, and that was cool. I do tend to like the Gray Sandman filler also. Now, I would like to, we're going to talk about Vegeta here in a minute. I do want to talk about Vegeta here. I will also say, though, that a lot, something else about the Buu arc, I'd like Chala Head Chala more than We Got a Power. And it's a small thing. It's not like it's the biggest, the end of the world. I just prefer that. What do you think about those two songs?
Yeah, I think I probably would say that Chala Head Chala is like the more iconic intro, and yeah, like the thing is for me, my favorite Dragon Ball intro is the original one.
Me too. Me
It's like,
too.
like that for me is
That's the
just like
one.
perfect. So all of them after that are kind of a step down. Although I do really like Don Don from Dragon Ball GT. But either way, I guess I would probably say that Head Chala is like better overall.
Yeah, I would agree. But again, like this arc sort of took the story because Toriyama had already done the sci-fi stuff, the time travel stuff. Now we have the gods being involved. We have demons now. Now we're going into like new realms, and the room of spirit and time was used for a battle this time. So I love how the final fight takes place on the Supreme Kai world. It does kind of remind me of Frieza, of how in the Frieza, because I like that. I like how in the Saiyan saga, we have the final fight in that canyon area, and then in the Cell saga, it's like in that open field. Whereas in the Frieza saga, it's the planet falling apart, and here it's the Supreme Kai realm, which has its own look with like the green, the purple skies. But the Buu saga, the one thing it does have is it gave us some of the coolest fights. Goku versus Kid Buu, and now I will say this: anime version wins. Episodes 279, 280, and 281, which is Goku versus Buu in SS2 and 3, is just almost flawless as far as animation goes. Do you have a favorite fight in the Buu arc? And do you have a favorite fight in the Cell arc?
Yeah, it's tough for the Buu arc because there are some really good fights. Definitely Vegeta versus Pui Pui for sure. No, but
When he puts his hand like this, like he's honking his titties, bro, it's always been it's a weird moment.
Yeah, that's something I really I mean maybe Vegeta versus Fat Buu is one that always stands out for me, but like. Yeah, that fight at the end with Goku and Kid Buu is definitely great.
They're
only thing
biting each other,
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that Goku does spend too much time trying to like punch and kick Buu, even though he knows that won't kill him. But like aside from that, that's like, because it's like the only way to kill this guy is with like a powerful enough blast. So like, why are you punching him, Goku, like a million times?
To like weaken him, I guess.
But I guess he doesn't know that he has seemingly unlimited stamina at this point. He's just gonna drag the fight out and beat Goku that way. But either way, yeah, that fight's definitely, I would say, probably the most iconic fight in that arc for sure. With the Vegeta versus Fat Buu one, just usually being the one that I'm more nostalgic about. I would have to say, especially when Vegeta like blasts him through with that special beam of his.
That blast.
Yeah, I was gonna say special beam, as a kind of pun because it almost is like the special beam can.
Kind of.
Makanko Sapo.
We're gonna talk about Vegeta last, but I want to talk about that's the last thing because I think that's the best thing about the Buu arc. We're gonna talk about that last, but I want to talk about the villains. Which one do you like more? I'm guessing you're gonna say Cell, and I understand why because Buu. Okay, well, why do you think Cell's better than Buu? I think I know the answer, but I'd rather you say your thoughts, and I'll give mine.
I just think that Cell is a more dynamic villain in terms of like his motivation, in terms of his backstory, in terms of the way he's executed, how he gets like Buu gets stronger over the course of the arc, but it's not like he's working for it in the same way that Cell does. Like Cell basically trains by absorbing people, by like going through the blown out ruins of the future and then going back in time just to accomplish his goal. He like kills multiple main characters to do this, whereas Buu, he definitely does a lot of things that are great in his own right for a villain, but I just feel like Cell is a lot more compelling in those aspects.
I think pros and cons. Cons first. With Buu, it's similar to Cell, but not as interesting. He can regenerate and he absorbs. Those are like the two main things about their powers, and that is a problem because it's the same thing, just done in a more effective way. But what I love about the Buu arc too is that Toriyama shows some balls in this arc because he does two things that have been teased since the very beginning of the series, and we actually witness it. One, when Super Buu does that extermination technique and kills everybody on Earth, that moment, can you imagine seeing that for the first time? Like, I remember when I saw it, I thought it was crazy. He kills everyone except for a very small handful of people. And then, near the end of the arc to kick off the fourth act, he blows up the Earth. Toriyama has teased the Earth blowing up thousands of times in Dragon Ball through Z, and now finally
Yeah.
he said, "Fuck it, we're gonna blow up the Earth." And I like that. It's almost like Toriyama said, "Whatever, let's just finally get it over with." And I like that because I think that's the only time that's happened, with the exception of GT and in Resurrection F. We haven't
Yeah.
actually seen the Earth. The entire planet got blown up. So it was like, let's really show how strong he is. Now,
Yeah. And he knew it was gonna be the ending, so, like, that's how do you top blowing up the Earth and killing everyone on it, right?
right, and that's awesome. Now, but I will say though, Cell is more interesting. I think when it comes to Boo, I don't think he's a horrible villain, but he's basically got another version of Demon King Piccolo where he's just pure evil. And I'm talking about the last Boo, not like Super Boo and all. He's just pure evil. But I do enjoy. I like when Fat Boo fought the Skinny Boo and became Super Boo, and I sort of like how when he absorbs, he learns more and things like that.
Yeah.
But it also does feel like the same thing over again. But I will say this. I mean, Fat Boo, I think, is almost underrated in some ways, I think. Now, let me ask you this. Filler, anime version, which of the two arcs has better filler? Because over in the Cell Saga, we've got the driving episode, the girl named Lime, and Gohan's birthday, and a few other little knickknacks here and there. In the Boo Saga, we've got good filler and we've got crap filler. Good filler to me is, I love Fat Boo versus Gotenks, where they fought like by the Navy. That was a good fight. Some of the Great Saiyaman filler is hilarious. Some of the filler, like just like Majin Buu trying to find a toilet, that was funny. But we have bad filler. I do not like, I can't speak for you, the episode where like the B team is trying to get the Dragon Balls, and like Yamcha's like afraid to go in the
Oh,
water.
yeah.
That one's dumb. And then the one that I really don't like, bro, I am not a fan of when they go inside of Majin Buu. Those
Yeah.
like 4 episodes, I usually, like, I'm being real with y'all, I usually skip those when I do my watch throughs, because the freaking Vegeta and Goku fighting worms, like,
Yeah.
So which of the two arcs do you think has better filler?
I will say, before I give that answer, I will say that I do really like the filler episode at the end of the Boo Saga before the 10-year time skip. where
Goku's
we
always late one?
Yeah,
That's
like
a
I
good
do
one.
really like that. I think that's actually one of the best endings of the whole franchise. If you want to like count as an ending before like the prologue, which is the 10 years
Epilogue.
later. Yeah, the epilogue actually. And
Says
so
the
I should know
author.
this. I write
You're,
books.
yeah, you're the
but-
author, bro.
but yeah, the thing is that in terms like overall, I would say that I prefer the Cell Saga filler because it's a lot more seamless in the way that's in there. Plus, you have like really cool stuff like that episode where Krillin.
What about
saved,
Goku doing puzzles, bro? What about that?
Oh yeah,
What the hell was
that one's
that?
a little that one's a little too ridiculous. But yeah, I do. I like some of the stuff with when like Gohan goes to the village to save them from Tao Pai Pai and
Now,
Bourbon or
can we
whatever.
agree that the Saiyan arc has the best filler in the entire series?
Oh yeah,
Saiyan arc filler blows it away.
yeah.
By the way,
like
Mike and I are going to do a video comparing the Saiyan to the Frieza arc at some point, and that's going to be a good one. What were you going to say?
yeah. So Saiyan arc, I can't really think of any bad filler in that entire arc. I mean, maybe a lot of people don't like the false Namek stuff, but there's so many.
No, that wasn't
cool-
that was part of the Frieza saga.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many cool little filler episodes in the Saiyan saga that really help with character development, especially for like Gohan. And then really most of the bad filler for me, I would say, is in like the Frieza saga. But so even
I
then, there
agree.
is some in the Buu saga too.
So let's wrap it up about Vegeta. I think the best thing about the Buu saga is the character arc of Vegeta. I love the fact that after the Cell saga, Vegeta says, "I'm done fighting," and then the minute Goku comes back for that one day, all his negative feelings came back. All of it just came back, and he was willing to do what he shouldn't have done for power, and that's let Babidi Majin him up to give him the upgrade to fight Goku. Now, a lot of folks love Majin Vegeta versus Goku. It's a very beloved fight. But I like the story behind it because Goku and Vegeta are fighting and Goku's arguing with him, calling him a liar, like you didn't do it for this reason. Goku knew that he actually changed. Vegeta was a very selfish man. If you want to learn about that fight, one of my favorite videos I've ever done is called Majin Vegeta A Deeper Look, where I did a hell of a character analysis on Majin Vegeta. I really am proud of that video. But I love how at the end, when he gets brought back to go fight Buu, and they use the Dragon Balls to wish all the good people back, his halo disappears.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a moment. Goku's like, your halo's gone. And Vegeta's like, it is? And Goku's like, I guess you're a good guy now. Like that was because he sacrificed himself. He atoned himself. And I think a lot of Vegeta fans consider Vegeta's sacrifice to be the greatest moment of the Vegeta character. How do you feel about it? And do you think it's the greatest moment of his character? And do you think it's the best moment in the entire arc? Because I think a lot of folks do feel that way.
In terms of his entire character, it's definitely a strong contender. Like, I also, for me, like one of the most emotional scenes for Vegeta and really the whole franchise is also his first death
Frieza
against
one?
Frieza. Yeah, like I remember when I was a kid, I like teared up watching that, you know. And with the Buu saga, yeah, definitely too. But the Buu saga one is way more impactful in terms of like Vegeta's character himself, because like he definitely breaks his pride. And I talked about 5 times Vegeta's pride was shattered on my channel in a video, but he breaks his pride by begging Goku and crying when he dies to Frieza. But it's the inverse with him sacrificing himself to kill Buu, because even though he doesn't succeed, he still is able to like do it for people other than himself, for even including for Goku. He like, the last person he mentions before he does it is and even you, Kakarot. So the fact that he does that is a great scene. I wouldn't have minded if they just went in a totally different subversion and Toriyama literally had Vegeta kill Buu in that. Just like imagine how out of nowhere that almost would have felt, just like Buu himself. But
I've
yeah,
had people
like
say that to me before. They want that to be the end of that arc. You're not the only one to
yeah.
say that.
And with regard to that, yeah, I think that's a great moment for his character and the ending too. Like everything with really that 10 years later, seeing everyone how they
The
progressed and
end
like
of
where they
Z.
are. Yeah, I think
Well,
that's a good one
yeah,
too.
I think so. We agree the Cell Saga is better, and I think ultimately the issue is for me. I don't know how you feel about this. The Boo Saga has a really strong start, meaning Saiyaman, and then going into the tournament, who is the Supreme Kai was a mystery. We
Yeah,
didn't know who he was at first. The introduction of the Majins all the way until Vegeta's sacrifice is wonderful. That middle part though is where things get a little wonky. Super Saiyan 3 is fine. Like it seems like an ass pull, and maybe it was, but Goku did train for 7 years, so we have an explanation. But
yeah,
there's that, and then the Gotenks fight, I'm not a fan of it. I don't hate it, but
yeah.
it's
Me
just
neither.
yeah, it's one of my least favorite parts of the series. And Gohan versus Boo, and then Vegeta was okay, was starting to work its way back up. Then the end is good. The beginning and end of the Boo saga, I think, are really strong. Whereas with the Cell saga, I agree that the beginning and end are the best, but the middle parts are still pretty good. The android fight, 17 versus Piccolo. We should also mention I did a video about the 7 underrated fights in Dragon Ball. 16 versus First Form Cell. It's only one episode, but seeing 16 fight with the rocket punch was fucking
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, and also Cell versus Vegeta with the final flash and Cell's Randy Savage elbow drop. Like I feel like that arc just has like it never really dips too low, whereas the Boo arc goes really low and then kind of builds it back up. So I do think the Cell Saga is better. So how do you feel about it looking at it that way?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I would definitely have to say the Cell Saga is, a top contender for the top arc in general. But that's something we're going to talk about a little bit more in our future videos, like with the Saiyan Saga versus Frieza and so on. And the thing is, yeah, for me, Cell when it comes to like whether one is like better or not, I would have to give it to Cell overall.
I think Cell wins as well for me, but as far as it being like people think it's to be the last arc, it could be. I could see that being the ending, but the Buu saga does have a pretty solid ending too, just with the way Vegeta's was resolved and Gohan kind of got the short end of the stick in the Buu arc, and it took him until last year. Until last year, yo. The manga ended in 95, bro. It took him until last year to kind of bring him back to prominence. But anyways, y'all, check out the video I did on Mike's channel, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you for having me, and stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah. Bye.